welcome to the Clark Athletic Center for a matinee meeting on very late December afternoon as both of these teams head towards the finals period. Both teams have struggled over the last couple of games. Eastern Nazarene College riding a 4-game losing streak. They've been off for a week. UMass Boston in the midst of their busiest stretch of the season, their 6th game in 13 days. Coming off a tough loss the other night at Suffolk, the Beacons will look for an early Christmas present for head coach Jason Harris. We'll take a break and be back with the rest of our pregame show right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in and a woman in a long gown, and it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. That's one of those moments you never forget.
Courtside for this non-conference matchup between the Eastern Nazarene College Lions and your UMass Boston Beacons. The 17th all-time meeting between these two sides. UMass Boston holds a convincing 11-5 all-time edge with wins in 8 of the past 10, but they haven't won here at home since 2005. Last time these two teams met, it was back in the 2014 Harbor Invite Championship game. Beacons ran out to a 7-point halftime lead. But it was Eastern Nazarene coming away with the title, a big second-half run as they improved to 9-0 on the season. No one back for either side from that 2014 game, but Eastern Nazarene does have a pair of assistant coaches who starred in that game. For UMass Boston, they've been struggling through the last couple of games in large part due to some injuries. 3 of their regular rotation players out with injuries, which has meant a couple players have had to step up, including Jake Smith. The freshman forward out of North Massachusetts stands at 6'5", so he's got great size offensively as well. Smith went off for 9 points against Tufts, 9 more against Rhode Island College before struggling the other night against Suffolk. He'll be the Beacons' second big today behind James Hawkins Jr., who had been filling that second big spot behind Kevin Lewis-Jean, who's currently out with a head injury. Right now, we'll take a look at the highlights from the Beacons' last home game. It was a big conference win over Rhode Island College as the Beacons improved to 1-1 in LEC play.
soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
And welcome back to our pregame show. My name is Seth Dorensky, joined by Gigi Braga. And Gigi, when you look at these two teams, the Beacons brought in 9 freshmen, Eastern Nazarene, pretty much a new team this year after losing so many seniors, 4 senior starters, 8 total players, 13 underclassmen on this side. This game maybe means a little bit more than your typical non-conference game, just going into winter break with a little bit of confidence, getting that W before both teams return to conference play early on in January.
Both teams are actually very young on both sides. Not a lot of seniors on the court tonight that we'll be seeing. So I think this game is definitely going to be a little bit of a confidence booster for both sides heading into break. Obviously, you kind of want to go out with the W and try to get back in with the W as well. So definitely going to be a good game to watch.
Eastern Nazarene got off to a great start, wins in 3 of their first 4. The lone loss coming against an MIT team that also defeated the Beacons, but they've lost 4 in a row by an average of 10.3 points per game. The Beacons, during this 6-game stretch, they've been trading losses and wins, looking to close that stretch out at 3-3 with the big win tonight. We'll take a look at the team statistics, and you look at these two sides. Eastern Naz playing at a little bit of a higher pace, but the big thing to watch, Gigi, is that 3-point field goal percentage mark for Eastern Nazarene. This is a team that lives and dies by the 3, and they are quite good at it from behind the arc.
Honestly, I think we're going to see both teams shoot from the perimeter a lot because the Beacons are known for shooting three-pointers. Michael Boyd, Charles Mitchell are great three-point shooters, but seeing that 46.7%, that's definitely a lot more than the Beacons are averaging, so definitely going to be a good game from the perimeter.
One guy to watch as we take a look at the individual leaders is Josh Rice. He has been phenomenal this season from distance, hitting well over 3 threes per game. He's in the top 41 in the country in total 3-point made field goals this year, 3-point made field goals per game, and 3-point field goal percentage. Also leads the team in scoring and rebounds. The Beacons, we talked about how they're a little bit shorthanded. No Kevin Lewis-Jean, a guy who is averaging 70% on his field goal attempts, but Dason Sinelli is in there, and he's going to have to continue to see a lot of minutes for this Beacons team against an Eastern Nazarene team that has quite a few guys who run 6'3", 6'4", 6'5".
Definitely going to be something interesting to watch. I want to see the Beacons kind of steer a little bit away from the perimeter and kind of try to challenge the post a little bit. They've been more of a team who shoots from the outside, but definitely a good game to kind of feed the post a little bit and see what they can get from there.
Neither team does a ton of that. They do have a couple of players who rely on their inside game, but the big thing has been their perimeter shooting on the year. Right now we'll take a look at the coaches. Not quite sure if Scott Polsgrove is out on the floor right now, but either way, we can tell you a little bit about the second-year head coach of the Lions. Polsgrove took over a season ago after a really successful stint from his predecessor under head coach Jim Aller, 77-28 the previous 5 seasons. They'd won 18 or more games. Last season, a step back at 13-14, trying to avoid another step back here as they're 3-5 after the 4-game losing streak. Polsgrove has seen a lot of time in the NAIA community for college basketball at Lees McRae and King's College. Played his college basketball at Taylor U, and it's interesting, his last stop before taking over, he was the head coach at Avery County High School, the high school of his starting point guard, Jacob Waldrop. So brought a very talented player who leads the team in assists, steals, and free throw percentage. Right now, when we turn the table and look at head coach Jason Harris for UMass Boston, he's had a little bit more time at his current stop, making his 3rd year here at UMass Boston. 25 and 37 with the Beacons, but one thing that's really been impressive is how he's handled these young squads, these new squads. The Beacons at the break in each of the past 2 years have been 500 or better. With a win today, they'll be 6-5, go into the break on a high, and that's really difficult when you're talking about building a new squad. His first season, another new-looking squad a year ago, and this is probably the hardest task with so many freshmen.
Yeah, and Jason Harris last year brought in two very good freshman point guards in Ty Lee and Alex Sanchez. Obviously, Alex out this year due to injury. But this year, again, he's bringing in kids. He's bringing in the Mitchell twins, Michael Boyd, very good freshmen who are kind of leading their offense and their defense on both sides of the court. And it's definitely something awesome to watch that Jason Harris is kind of building up this program from the bottom.
We'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with the starters and the keys to the game as UMass Boston, Eastern Nazarene, just minutes away from tip.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Eastern Nazarene has been off since last Thursday. A tough 78-73 loss to Dean College, a first-year Division III program. They're looking to get back into the win column. Haven't won since the 25th of November. That was a big 104-79 win over New England College. We'll take a look at their starters right now for this Lions side. Remember, a lot of youth, 13 of their 16 players underclassmen, and their 3 upperclassmen don't see all that much time. They'll go with Noah Chady, the sophomore guard out of Bend, Oregon, second on the team in points per game, assists per game, and three-pointers. Jacob Waldrop, talked a little bit about him, the sophomore guard out of Newland, North Carolina. He's a NAIA transfer out of Milligan College. He'll be the point guard on this team. Trayvon Davis, very strong center down low, 6'5" out of Moore, South Carolina, leads the team with his 65% field goal percentage. Very strong player. Also has a team-high 7 blocks. Micah Simmons-Smalls, he'll make his second consecutive start, the lone senior in the lineup today. Senior guard out of Kingston, New York, started last week against Dean, had a season-high 6 points. He'll make his 6th total appearance on the year, only seeing about 7.2 minutes per game. The final starter, Josh Rice. This guy does everything for this team. Sophomore guard out of Hanson, Mass., 6'5", leads the team in points, rebounds, and three-pointers. We'll take a commercial break, and then we'll be back with the Beacon starting lineup and the keys to the game.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
James Hawkins, senior forward from West Medford, Massachusetts.
Isaac Bonds, combo guard, senior, Roxbury, Mass.
Ty Lee, sophomore guard from Boston, Massachusetts.
Dace Sinelli, sophomore guard / forward, Boston, Massachusetts.
Dennis Houghton, freshman guard / forward, Gardner, Massachusetts.
Dennis Houghton will make his first start of the season today. Houghton's a guy who hasn't seen a ton of time. In fact, he's outside of the regular rotation. Freshman guard out of Gardner, Mass, stands at 6'1", 195. Pretty good rebounder. He's in there today because Charles Mitchell showed up a little bit late to a team meeting. We'll see a lot of Charles today, but that's a big thing with this Beacons team, accountability, so that's why we won't see Mitchell, the Beacons' leading scorer, and one of their top players overall in the starting lineup. Right now, let's take a look at the keys to the game. And Gigi, we got a quick look at the scout before today's game, and a couple of these did show up, so at least I was able to channel a little of what Jason Harris might be looking at. The big one is that second one. This Eastern Nazarene team hits over 9 threes a game. A couple of their players are shooting over half of their shots from distance. The Beacons aren't good at closing out today. This could be a very long game defensively after giving up a really bad field goal percentage against Suffolk the other night, 53.1%, the highest of the season for the Rams.
And when you get a team that can hit their threes and they can hit their shots and they're constantly going up and down the court and they're just looking to hit from the perimeter, when it gets to a point where they're just constantly hitting, and like you said, they hit at least 9 threes per game, that can be a little bit of a downer on the defense. And if the Beacons don't do a good job of closing them out from the perimeter, this could be a very long game for them.
The one thing that's positive for the Beacons, this Eastern Naz team does struggle with the turnovers, something the Beacons will look to take advantage of in transition. UMass Boston in the home white uniforms with blue numbers and blue trim. On the other side, Eastern Nazarene in the road reds with the black numbers and white trim. The Beacons will be going from left to right on your computer screens, as it's going to be Hawkins Jr., who stands at 6'4", 210 against Trayvon Davis at 6'5". First time these two teams have played here in Boston since 2014. They did play a year ago. The Beacons earning a 75-70 win at Eastern Nazarene. Not too far away, if you're not familiar with the Boston area, over in Quincy, Massachusetts, with the Beacons earning a big win thanks to Iser Barnes, who's in the starting lineup, has the ball right here. He had a game-high 23 in that victory. Gives it off to Ty Lee, leads the team with just under 4 assists per game. Beacons down to 10 on the shot clock. Houghton goes to Hawkins, and it's going to be an offensive foul. Hawkins pushing off there, and the Beacons a turnover on their first possession of the game.
And that's something that you don't want to get too often in the game. You don't want to get so many early fouls. It's only been, barely 20 seconds into this game. We kind of want to limit our fouls a little bit, try to get the first basket of the game and get things flowing a little bit.
Noah Cheney able to beat the full court pressure, hands it off for Rice. He's the big-time three-point shooter who has NBA range, and a second foul. This one will go against the other Beacon senior in the lineup, Iser Barnes, trying to keep pace with Noah Cheney, and he's called for the hold down low. So 2 fouls on the Beacons in the opening 36 seconds.
Yeah, Seth, and when you have a team who is dealing with a couple of injuries and your bench becomes a little bit shorter, foul trouble is definitely something you got to watch out for.
Good pump fake there by Cheney. Barnes went up but was able to get back into defensive position. Right now, Lee putting a little bit of pressure on Waldrop, the point guard for Eastern Nazarene. Davis has to pick up the dribble, has 3 up top, being forced to drive, and that's Micah Simmons. Smalls unable to convert, with Davis getting his hands on the rebound, unable to hold on. Lee all the way to the hoop, loses his footing, and it's going to be out of bounds off the Lions. Waldrop caught that one and was out of bounds there. Fortunate break for the Beacons as Lee looked to slip just as he was going up for the basket.
That transition is kind of what you want to see from the Beacons today. You want to see Ty Lee, you want to see Charles Mitchell, you want to see them using their speed and try to get to the basket, try to get the Lions caught a little bit.
Lee trying to find Hawkins down low. Ball gets batted right back at Lee with 13 on the shot clock. Kicked across for Barnes from distance, and he'll knock one down from the wing.
That's definitely a confidence booster for two teams that score a lot of points from the three-point line. The Beacons definitely getting the first 3 down. Got to be a confidence booster for the senior.
Barnes, a guy who has quickly built his way into the starting lineup. Has started 5 in a row now. After coming in a little bit out of shape, he admitted it during the preseason. Barnes has earned that starting time because of injuries to a couple of Beacons, but also his experience as he'll grab the rebound and look to push. Asinelli to his right, nearly called for the double dribble there. Instead, goes up with a left-handed lay-in, and Barnes will slip, and now it's Eastern Nazarene a chance to get out in transition. Barnes behind the play. Simmons Smalls leaves it off for Cheney, and now it's wide open. Waldrop from straight away, and we've got ourselves a 3-3 game.
And that extra pass right there, great ball movement from the Lions. That extra pass right there, just leaving a player wide open. The Beacons have to close that down.
Noah Cheney, who was credited with the assist there, 2.5 assists per game for the player out of Bend, Oregon, one of 3 players from the Pacific Northwest on this Eastern Nazarene team. Barnes forces that one a little bit, ends up in the hands of Simmons Smalls. Simmons Smalls nearly lost the dribble there. In transition, kicks it across for Rice. A wide open three for Cheney this time, just off the mark. And we've got a foul against the Lions. Trayvon Davis took an elbow to the chin there, but he's going to be called for the foul just as well. And we'll see Davis take a quick seat with Daniel Lopez, the freshman forward out of Miami, Florida, one of two freshmen out of Miami, checking in, first sub for either side.
Something you want to see off of Iser Barn. That was a great drive that he went to the basket. Didn't go in, but you get that player wide open in the corner, and the only reason he's getting that shot off is because you're now playing 4-on-5 basketball because Iser's trying to get back. So if you're going to go drive to the hoop, you got to hustle back.
Lee gets caught up in the air, but somehow able to finish acrobatically, nearly causes the turnover there. Some indecision between Rice and Waldrop on the inbounds pass, and Eastern Nazarene probably fortunate there. Waldrop will replace Rice on the inbounds. 5-3 Beacons, 17-14 to go in the first half as the Beacons continue to put full court pressure on. Simmons Smalls working around Houghton, and he'll get it across the half-court line. Both teams in a man-to-man early. So we'll see the first touch of the day for David Lopez. He's coming off some strong play, had 10 points and 7 rebounds against NEC late last month. Simmons Smalls across for Waldrop with 9 on the shot clock. Rice's first three-point attempt, and it's good with a hand in his face. That's the kind of shooter that Josh Rice is.
Yeah, and Beacons did a good job of closing that down, but that just shows how good of a shooting team the Lions are. Even with a contested shot, they find a way to get the basket to go in.
Rice, the only returner on the team who averaged more than 5 points per game, as Barnes will throw it up off the glass, gets a couple of nice bounces, and knocks it in, as the Beacons will send a pair of guys who are typically in the starting lineup, Charles Mitchell and Michael Boyd, to the scorer's table. So the Beacons will keep those in purgatory for very little time to start this game. Nice finish from Waldrop underneath, and the lead is 7-6 in favor of the Beacons. UMass Boston with those 3 regulars out with injuries, really running 7 strong up to 9, and we've got another foul. This one could be the second on Hawkins. And fortunately, it'll be Dennis Houghton, so instead, 1 foul each on the Beacons bigs, and it'll be Houghton and Hawkins heading to the bench along with Sinelli. Jake Smith, our player to watch, will check in. He'll be out there with 4 guards, Ty Lee, Mike Boyd, Iser Barnes, and Charles Mitchell. So 3 freshmen, a sophomore, and a senior out there for UMass Boston.
It's not uncommon to see, though, the Beacons going small. This is kind of what we're used to seeing. You get 1 big and 4 guards out there.
Straight away, Waldrop too strong. Charles Mitchell trying to get the rebound. Davis the offensive board, and he gets some fortuitous bounces off the front of the rim to push the lead to 10-7 in favor of Eastern Nazarene.
And Davis is such a good rebounder that the Beacons kind of have to not worry so much about the rebound and worry more about boxing them out.
It was actually David Lopez, not Trayvon Davis. That one's on me. Smith from the corner. He can shoot from there. Instead draws the defensive foul there on Lopez, his first, 3rd on the team, and that'll bring us to our first media timeout. Eastern Nazarene off to a 10-7 start over the Beacons. We'll take a commercial break and then be back right here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Moving from Turkey, it was a rough journey for me because when you don't really speak the language that well and when you don't really fit in the crowd, it's very easy to disappear. But I decided not to give up, and UMass helped me.
(10-7) early on in favor of Eastern Nazarene. 3 fouls on the Beacons, 2 on the Lions. And Gigi, it's not surprising to see the Beacons down without Michael Boyd and Charles Mitchell into the game, but it's going to be interesting to see how quickly those 2 can acclimate themselves to this game. They're 2 guys who have started every single game here at the collegiate level, a pair of very talented freshmen, and those are guys the Beacons need to get going. Charles coming off a 24-point game, and Michael Boyd averaging just about 12 points a game, 2nd on the Beacons behind Charles Mitchell.
Well, when you get 2 of your best offensive shooters not in the starting lineup and not in the game for the first 5 minutes, that's definitely going to hurt your offense a little bit. Charles Mitchell, obviously the team's leading scorer with 14.3 points per game, definitely expect to see a couple more points from him. Definitely some three-pointers being attempted because you know that that's his game. That's what he wants to play. But definitely expect a couple more points from the Beacons here.
Well, you played some high school basketball, although from the stories you've told me, you were guaranteed a varsity starting spot. But how does it impact athletes who are used to starting, coming off the bench? Sometimes I feel like you see athletes maybe never get into the game, or it takes a lot longer for them to get into their game.
It definitely challenges your humility. You know, you got to know that other players are getting their opportunity too. You just kind of got to support them. It might get in your head a little bit, but as soon as you get into the game, you got to focus on the game and not on the outside aspects.
Jake Smith takes a little contact. He'll head to the line. A strong move from the freshman out of Norwell as he was posting up there against Andrew Mitchell, a guy who's typically in the starting lineup for Eastern Naz. Mitchell, the 6'4" sophomore out of Campobello, South Carolina. He had started most of the games coming in, 7 out of 8, but he'll come off the bench today. Smith's first one is good. Smith, a guy who has seen a ton more time as of late. Just saw 1 minute in the team's first 4 games. He's now averaging 13 minutes per game, most of those coming in the last 6. Goes 1 of 2, and the Beacons are within 2.
And with Kevin Lewis-Jean out of the game, you're definitely going to need to expect a lot out of Jake Smith, James Hawkins. With a guy out on injury, you need your bigs to step up a little bit more.
There's some miscommunication on the Eastern Naz team. Waldrop was trying to send it across. Instead, it ended up going right by a pair of Lions. And the Beacons will hold on to a 2-point lead, or a 2-point deficit, 5 minutes in. Boyd looking to drive, lifts it up for Lee. Right back for Boyd, who can shoot it from distance. Averages about 45%, makes on his threes. Lee short on the floater, ball bouncing around, and it's controlled by Eastern Nazarene in the form of Josh Rice. Up top, controlled by Cheney, near side. First look for Simmons Smalls from distance. He's too strong. Charles Mitchell all alone in transition. Will have to pull it out for Ty Lee. Those two played alongside Charles's twin brother Charlie at New Mission High School, where they won a pair of state titles. Smith from the near side leaves it off wide open. Charles Mitchell almost too wide open as he nearly missed the easy lay-in.
And it's good to see, like I said at the beginning of the game, it's good to see the Beacons kind of challenging the post a little bit, getting some easier shots down the lane rather than just shooting from the perimeter.
Smith is averaging 1 assist per game, and he picks up an early one there, dishing from big to small in the post. Wide open shot from distance, and it's Andrew Mitchell draining it. Already the third 3 of the game for Eastern Nazarene, and they lead by 3, 13-10.
That was just a good drive there by Eastern Nazarene, you know, penetrating to the basket, getting the defense to collapse, and just kicking it back out. Easy three-pointer.
Smith again for Charles Mitchell. This time he uses the glass. Back-to-back baskets with Smith picking up the assist for Mitchell, and it's a 13-12 game.
And there you have it. Mitchell's been in the game for 2 minutes now, and he's already got 2 baskets under his name. Definitely something. He's a great offensive generator.
Rice up top being guarded by Sinelli, giving him 0 space. Near side, it's Cheney trying a 3. Too strong, long rebound, and that one will go out of bounds off the Beacon. Smith can't believe it. He was letting that one go, but Andrew Mitchell had the same idea. And in the end, the referees give it back to the Lions.
That's just something you can't really help it with. Obviously, you thought you had the last. The other team had the last touch there. You know, just got to get back to playing defense.
Eastern Nazarene will go to the bench. Micah Simmons Smalls heads off. It's Brendan Rogers, sophomore guard out of Hanson, Mass, a New England College transfer. Easy bucket down low for Mitchell, who got underneath Smith, and the lead back to 3.
You know, Mitchell's already reached his average of points. He's already got 4 points at least, and he's averaging 4.1 points per game. Definitely seeing some offense being generated by him other than just your typical three-point shooters.
Smith charges through a player. No foul on the Beacons, and it's Sinelli on the putback after he missed his own shot. Jake Smith, an unlikely facilitator for the Beacons, has been set up each of the past 3 baskets. 12:30 to go in the first half. Eastern Nazarene has led for most of it. Just a 1-point game right now. Rice has been limited to just the 1-3. Picks it up, throws it across. Cheney somehow saves it. Throws it in the backcourt. Charles Mitchell out in front with Waldrop behind him, and he'll draw the foul there. Charles just using a little bit of that speed to his advantage.
And that's what you love to see for him. He knows how fast he is. Everyone knows how fast he is. Getting that steal, going to the basket, driving hard, and would have loved to see a basket go down there and try to get a 3-point play, but definitely a good drive.
Looks like a few of the women's basketball players are out to support the men's basketball team, wearing some funky costumes. Maybe they're holiday related. I think it's a little late for Halloween, and it does look like they are wearing their most festive of outfits around the holidays, as Mitchell misses the first, hits the second. One area he really struggles at is the free throw line, less than a 50% shooter on the season.
That's something you don't see very often. Usually guys who shoot so well from the three-point line are, natural-born shooters, and they're usually very good at the free throw. But he's young, definitely something he can work on.
Something he's going to have to work on, as some of his teammates and high school teammates have been giving him a little bit of grief. Cheney wide open from the near corner. The lead back to 3 for Eastern Naz. Sinelli drives hard, draws the contact, and he'll head to the line for 2. Mitchell sliding underneath him will be charged with his second foul, just the 4th on the Lions, but that'll be a tough break as he'll likely head to the bench. We'll take a commercial break. The Beacons trailing by 3 with 11:47 to play in the first half.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
18-15 in favor of Eastern Nazarene, 11:47 to go in the first half. And right now, just give you a reminder that you can follow UMass Boston Athletics on social media. You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at UMass Beacons. We'll have highlights from this one after tonight's game on the YouTube page, and you can check out everything pertaining to Beacons men's basketball and Beacons Athletics on beaconsathletics.com. So, JG, we've seen 5 more minutes of action. The Beacons have got some really positives going offensively, with Smith being a facilitator, but how do you limit these three-point looks? A lot of these three-point shots that Eastern Nazarene is hitting, they're wide open in the corners or open looks from the wings. That's where Eastern Nazarene can kill you.
I think the guards have to do a better job of trusting their bigs, trusting that when a guy is penetrating down in the lane, that their bigs are going to be able to play some good defense, because a lot of what Eastern Nazarene is doing, they're just driving the hoop and dishing it back out, and our guards are getting caught ball watching, essentially.
Jason Sinelli heads to the line. He's been one of the Beacons' best free throw shooters on the season. 79.4%, tops on the Beacons, 27 of 34. Leads the team in most attempts and most makes, and he'll add one there. So Sinelli with the first one. I believe that's his 3rd point of the game. He's been limited early on for a guy who averages 9.4 points, good for 3rd on the team, and 8.1 rebounds. Sophomore out of Boston goes 1 of 2 there. Eastern Nazarene making some substitutions. Christian Garcia, the other Miami native, he's a sophomore out of Archbishop Coleman Carroll, will man the point. David Lopez is also back into the game, along with Trayvon Davis. Out there with Cheney, and up top it's Brendan Rogers. So Rice on the bench for the first time. Smith rejects Davis, throws it up again as he got his own offensive rebound, and it's Barnes in transition, 4-on-2. Barnes near side for Boyd, passes up on that transition 3, and the Beacons will set it up offensively. Boyd, sorry about that, double teamed, and the Beacons lose it. Tough break as Cheney dives on the loose ball.
That's just good defense down by Jake. Like I said, you got to trust your bigs. They're going to get it done.
Jake Smith has been a revelation for UMass Boston. Was barely seeing time with Kevin Lewis-Jean and James Hawkins both available, but the injury to Kevin Lewis-Jean that we expect will keep him out of the lineup for the rest of today's game, but he should be back in January, has allowed Smith to really shine recently. Davis, a little bit short on the lane, and it's out of bounds before the Beacons could save it. It'll go back to UMass Boston with Hawkins coming in to replace Smith. So the Beacons sending out a 6'4" player to replace a 6'5" guy, and this is a good matchup for UMass Boston down low, because Eastern Nazarene doesn't have a dominant scorer who's a big.
Yeah, you want to see James Hawkins get really aggressive during his time out on the court right now.
Hawkins across for Barnes, has already hit one from that exact spot. He'll pass it up near side for Boyd, who's been quiet. Mitchell has a couple of layups. Barnes will try a second 3, this one a bit deeper, and he gives the Beacons their first lead in a while at 19-18 with 10:15 remaining in the first half. A little bit of full court pressure, and that is going to be a turnover on the pass across. Iser Barnes with the quick hands. He looks to drive. Floater off glass is off the mark. Grabs his own rebound amongst three bodies and somehow able to score. Now we've got a technical as Barnes yells at the referee asking for the foul. And that's what you don't want to see is Iser Barnes. So much good work there. 5 consecutive points. And then immediately gives Eastern Nazarene a chance to cut the momentum back, as that's also the second foul on Barnes. So that's a double no-no, as he's the first player to pick up 2 fouls for the Beacons.
That's just a damper to your offense right there. You had a great drive. You got your own rebound. You went up and got the basket in between 4 players. Definitely something you don't want to have happen right there.
And Noah Cheney is 78.8% free throw shooter, knocks them both down. And that means Barnes will head to the bench with 10:01 to go. So there's a lot of negatives after so much good there from Barnes. He'll be replaced by Ty Lee. And Barnes will head to the end of the bench. Jason Harris happy with everything that just happened until the comment to the ref asking for the N1 there. And that'll cost the Beacons, with Barnes likely missing the rest of this first half. Near steal there from Mitchell. Picking up his dribble was Christian Garcia. Back out top for Brendan Rogers, who spells his name with a double N, Brendan. First time I think I've ever seen that from a Brendan. Down low, good move there, but unable to finish from David Lopez, and the Beacons will push in transition. Lee had a streaking Charles Mitchell. Instead gives it off for Boyd from NBA distance, and he knocks it down. That'll cause an Eastern Naz timeout. The Beacons on an 8-0 run, as Michael Boyd was 2, maybe 3 feet behind the mark. And the Beacons lead 24-20. We'll stay here, Gigi. Outside of that technical foul, everything going UMass Boston's way at this point.
I mean, yeah, Michael Boyd hitting that 3, that's kind of the motivation that you need. You know, one of your guys goes down with 2 fouls, gets a technical. In a close game like this, you don't want to give up a lot of free throws, especially against a shooting team like Eastern Nazarene, who is likely to hit one, if not both of their free throws. You can't be giving up silly fouls like that.
Eastern Nazarene 70.9% on the season from the free throw line. Beacons just at 66.1%. So the Beacons right now off to a 4-point lead after trailing for the most part. The one negative, Iser Barnes sitting on the bench with those 2 fouls. Everyone else has 1 or fewer. For Eastern Nazarene, one of their typical starters who came off the bench, Andrew Mitchell, is on the bench right now with 2 fouls. And one of the best things for the Beacons defensively is Josh Rice, who will stay on the bench at least for the moment, has just 3 points, and I think just 1 field goal attempt. So you're talking about a guy who averages over 3 made 3-pointers per game and a guy who's averaging 17 points per game. He's been very quiet in the opening 10 minutes. Great ball pressure on Waldrop, but he's able to get rid of it. To the near side, it's Christian Garcia. Garcia, nice behind the back dribble to open up space. The lefty 3, that's Brendan Rogers, and that's the second foul on Trayvon Davis. Both loose ball fouls on the boards, and the very talented freshman out of South Carolina will head to the bench, replaced by Andrew Mitchell, who already has 2 fouls. And the other guy back into the game is Josh Rice, as Davis went to the bench alongside Christian Garcia.
I mean, that's bittersweet. You get a guy like Davis going out, but then you get guys like Mitchell coming back in the game who are producing a lot on the offense.
Boyd from the elbow, and these refs are going to continue to call fouls. That's the second one on Hawkins, trying to clear space on the post. So now Hawkins has 2 fouls, as does Barnes. The Beacons only have 2 available seniors in this game, and both of them have been whistled for 2 fouls. The Beacons total have 5. There are 4 players with 2 fouls in this game, and there have only been 11 fouls called as the Beacons get the tie-up, but it'll stay with Eastern Naz on the possession arrow.
And if you're the Beacons bigs, you got to be cautious right now. You're really only talking about James Hawkins and Jake Smith out right now because of the injury to Kevin Lewis-Jean, and Hawkins already has 2 fouls on him. He's got to be really careful.
Most of the fouls have been called on the offensive end. That's the other surprising part. Waldrop being guarded closely by Lee, tapped away by Boyd, but it'll stay with the Lions. Into the quarter, it's Rogers. Lefty 3-point shooter, and Boyd comes underneath, and they're going to call the foul on Rogers, trying to track down the loose ball. So another offensive foul, or at least a loose ball foul there. That's the first on Rogers, 7th on the Lions, so the Beacons will be shooting the 1-1. We've talked a bit about them already, so let's give you the names of this referee crew. Tom Deneen is the head ref. David Powell and James Grady are his assistants, as Michael Boyd will head to the line for the 1-1. Boyd knocks down the first on the year. He's 12 of 15 from the free throw line. Good for 80%. Make it 13 of 16 as the Beacons stretch their lead to 5. It's now a 9-0 run. Make it 10-0 run as Boyd knocks down both.
I want to tell you right now, Seth, foul shots are going to be very important in this game, especially with a close game, two good shooting teams. The refs are calling fouls. It's going to come down to foul shots.
Could hurt the Beacons as they don't have as much depth available today, but they have been shooting very well from the free throw line. As that's a near turnover. Lopez had picked up his dribble and was trying to get it over to Rice. Boyd on Rice. Near side for Rogers, just called for the offensive foul. There's the lefty floater, no good. Mitchell, a big offensive rebound. Swung across the far side for Waldrop. Lopez working on Hawkins, who has 2 fouls. He goes up and down, and the Beacons will get it back on the turnover.
Something I really love to see right here is the Beacons defense. One of your better defenders, Iser Barnes, on the bench, but these guys out here on the court right now are just playing excellent defense.
UMass Boston tested it a little bit there with Hawkins staying out for another minute and a half after picking up his second foul. We'll see Jake Smith check back in with 8:03 left. Next stoppage will lead to our third of 4 media timeouts here in the first half. Smith struggled to pick up the initial pass, gives it off for Mitchell, well short, goes off the back of the other Mitchell, that one the Eastern Nazarene player, and it'll end up with UMass Boston with 13 seconds on the shot clock after this commercial break. We'll take it along with the teams. UMass Boston 26, Eastern Nazarene 20 after this 10-0 run.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
Finals are about to be upon us. In fact, some of the UMass Boston student athletes already have had some finals and will have finals until about the 21st. After finals period ends, the Beacons will resume play on the 2nd of January, a non-conference matchup against Regis College. Then they'll finish off non-conference play on the 4th against Bridgewater State, and then back into conference play on the 6th of January against Eastern Connecticut State. Gigi, when you're this young, especially as a coaching staff, knowing how young this team is, you want to make your mistakes out of conference so that when you get to conference play, you can be playing your best basketball. You can know those things you have to fix. How important are these next 3 games for UMass Boston before they close out the season with 12 straight conference games?
Very important. You kind of want to get all your kinks out at the beginning of the season, you know, all your injuries out of the way, especially against an Eastern Connecticut team who is a fairly decent team, and playing 12 conference games, super important.
Smith takes the inbounds, goes around Rice there, who they're equal in size, but Smith might have a little bit more weight behind him. There's a nice play in transition from David Lopez to answer, and the Beacons lead by 6. That ended a 12-0 run in favor of the Beacons. Smith can't quite make the catch and will go out of bounds off the Beacons. So the Lions will have to face this full court pressure.
And that's something that kind of like a downside of the full court press is if it gets broken, it's usually an easy layup.
Beacons will drop off here with Boyd, the lone player, putting pressure on Cheney. David Lopez on the far side. He's not a guy who shoots the 3 all that often. In fact, just 8 times on the year in 8 games coming into this one. Rice has Lopez asking for the ball. Instead, the Beacons double team Rice. Swung across wide open. Cheney from the wing. He's too strong. Smith fighting with Rice, and he grabs the rebound. Beacons 2-on-3 right now. Charles Mitchell dishes off for Lee. Transition 3 from Boyd. Front rim no good. And the rebound into the hands of Nathan Vasquez. First time we've seen one of the players out of South Christian Academy. There's Mitchell in transition. Short. Boyd can't grab it. That one hit the backside of the basket, which should have been the Beacons' ball. The referees miss it, and it'll end up with Eastern Naz in the front court. Nathan Vasquez, wearing number 14, attended South Shore Christian Academy alongside his older brother TJ and their cousin Luke Dagley. And there's another bucket for David Lopez, as he has been very good here in the first half. And that's going to be the first foul on Smith. So now 2 on James Hawkins and 1 on Jake Smith, as the Beacons will send Iser Barnes back in for Boyd with those 2 fouls.
Barnes has to be really careful here. You pick up your 3rd foul in the first half, you might not see that many minutes in the second half.
Lopez knocks down the free throw. He's got at least 7 here of the team's first 25, and that cuts the deficit to 28-25. Lee all the way to the bucket, too strong. Smith the board, triple teamed. He was blocked on the way up, and the rebound ends up in the hands of Cheney. Cheney gets around Charles, throws it up top for Lopez. Lopez working on the much smaller Charles Mitchell. And the Beacons now have a mismatch over in the corner as Cheney able to go down low for Lopez. Wants another one, and 1. Dason Sinelli supplies the contact, and David Lopez has now scored 7 in a row. He's got a chance to make it 8 and to tie this game up at 28 apiece.
He's definitely an aggressive player. I don't know if we got a little offensive foul over there, though, on Charles Mitchell. I think he might have thrown a little elbow out there.
Earlier on in the possession, I would totally agree with that, along the 3-point line. Mitchell draws the contact against Lopez along the sideline there. A little bit of push. And Lopez's bigger issue in that matchup is that he's listed at 6'5". We don't have weights on the Eastern Nazarene roster, but he's a big guy. He certainly can carry his own in the post. And Charles Mitchell is listed at 5'10", and realistically, whatever the weight is, it said 150. It's probably closer to 130, as Mitchell can't connect on the 1-and-1.
Hey, let me tell you, from a smaller person playing soccer, you go up against someone who's bigger than you, it's really easy for you to go down.
That's a fair way of putting it without saying it's a dive. Wall drip from the corner, rattles it home, and Eastern Nazarene right back into the lead. It's 31-28 with 5:25 to play, and the Beacons are forced to use one of their timeouts. Take a timeout along with the teams. All of a sudden, Eastern Nazarene is on a roll. They scored 11 of the past 14, and they lead by 3 here with 5:25 left.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Eastern Nazarene's going to show a little bit of full court pressure for the first time today. They've been on a hot streak thanks to David Lopez, who has been very good off the bench, the freshman out of Miami. Lee able to break it by himself, ahead for Barnes underneath the basket. He was blocked. Smith the rebound. He'll head to the line for 2. That's the 19th foul on Eastern Nazarene, but a shooting foul. And we'll see who's called for that one, as Eastern Nazarene has a few players with 2 fouls. But that's going to go as the first.
Tylee right there, that's amazing ball handling skills to break that press. Getting a good vision of seeing Iser all the way down near the baseline, that's a good point guard right there.
It's the first on Nathan Vasquez. They put up number 13 on the scoreboard, but Trayvon Davis is on the bench and already has 2. Smith takes advantage and knocks down both. 19 fouls on the line, 7 on the Beacons. The Beacons will be shooting 2 the rest of the way. And it's a 1-point game with 5:11 to go in the first half. A back-and-forth first half. Eastern Nazarene led for about the first 8 minutes. Beacons went on a big run to take the lead, and Eastern Nazarene just used a run to take the lead, and it's a 1-point advantage right now. Cheney from the free throw line, gives it off for Rogers, a pair of left-handed players. Wide open Rice, and he's short. The Beacons catch a break as Sinelli went for the steal and missed. Boyd has already hit one from this distance, kicks it over for Barnes, has hit 2 threes from that far wing to Boyd, who thought about it. With 17 on the shot clock, he'll pull it back out. Michael Boyd out of Malden Catholic High School, the Beacons' second leading scorer. Into the corner, Barnes wants another triple. tickles the twine. He's been red hot offensively, and he now has at least 11 points, the Beacons' first 33.
And it's kind of a shame to see that he has 2 fouls already because he's producing so much offense that his defensive side just needs to be up to par a little bit.
Had 23 a year ago. One of the Beacons' upperclassmen, a former Linden State transfer who's in his 3rd season with the Beacons. Rice looking to work in the post, kicks it across for Rogers from the wing. Front rim, no good. Long rebound, ends up in the hands of Boyd. Lee in transition, wants to go all the way, draws contact, knocks it down off the glass, and the Beacons' lead is 35-31 with 3:48 to play in the first.
If I'm Eastern Nazarene right now, I'm looking for something different than your threes. You get some of your best three-point shooters aren't hitting their shots.
Barnes takes the ball away, and he can't convert a 2-on-1, a late divergent 2-on-1 as Lee was coming up quietly, and Barnes did everything but put the ball in the basket there after he stole it away at half court. That's a potential swing here as it's Rice, draws contact, can't finish, rebound is loose, and it ends up in the hands of Rogers. That could have been a 4-point swing. Make it 5 now as Rice from the corner. He's too strong. Hit an early 3, but he's been very quiet for the leading scorer for Eastern Nats. Lee all the way to the tin. They're going to say it's on the floor, but it's 2 free throws nonetheless as the Lions are now giving the Beacons the double bonus. And we'll go to a media timeout, bringing the name of the player who just gave up the foul and some more information. It's the Beacons back into the driver's seat, leading 35-31.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
35-31 in favor of UMass Boston with 3:05 to go in the first half. My name is Seth Dorensky, joined by Gigi Braga. That foul ended up as the second on Brendan Rogers, already for Eastern Naz. They have 4 players with 2 fouls. The Beacons have 2. Foul trouble certainly could play a factor in this one. But Gigi, it's been the swings in momentum that have really characterized this first half. Both teams have looked like they had a chance to run away. And then for the Beacons, it's been Iser Barnes who's reined the game back in. On the other side, David Lopez for Eastern Nazarene. Maybe not the guys we expected to be carrying the load offensively.
Absolutely. Not to pick on Josh Rice or anything, but for a guy who hits 61% from the perimeter, he's missed a couple of his shots. And like I said before, if you're Eastern Nazarene, you're looking for something in the post with David Lopez rather than hitting perimeter shots.
Lopez currently on the bench. It'll be Lee to the line for a pair of free throws. Ty Lee, a sophomore on this year's team, was an all-rookie team selection a year ago in the LEC. Leads the team in both assist and assist to turnover ratio. As Lee, 76% free throw shooter a year ago, and he easily knocks down both. Had a game last weekend where he went 13 of 16 from the free throw line en route to 21 points in a win over Rhode Island College. Stretches the lead out to 6 points with 3 minutes to go in the first half. For Eastern Naz, they've got Rice, Cheney, Rogers out there alongside Waldrip, and the final player looks to be Nathan Vasquez. Cheney fakes the handoff, and we've got a hand check foul there against Mike Boyd trying to fight through the screen. So that'll lead to the 1-and-1 here.
If I'm the Eastern Nazarene point guards, look a little bit more in the post. You get guys who are setting the pick and rolling, and they're being open. The Beacons bigs are not guarding them. Look for them down in the post.
Micah Simmons-Smalls will come in and replace Brendan Rogers with those 2 fouls. First one is good from Noah Cheney, the sophomore out of Bend, Oregon. On the year, he's shooting 78.8% from the free throw line. We've already seen him go 3 for 3 as he took those 2 technical free throws against Barnes, make it 4 for 4, and the Beacons' lead is 4 with 2:40 to play. Sinelli, Smith, Boyd, Lee, and Charles Mitchell for the Beacons, as Smith again struggling with the catch in the post, gives it back to the Lions. Cheney working against the Beacons' big man, pulls up and unable to finish. Charles Mitchell grabs the rebound, and it'll end up going back to Eastern Nazarene as he was tied up by Nathan Vasquez.
And for a guy like Charles Mitchell, who says he's 5'10", I claim 5'8", going against a much bigger opponent, he gets up for those rebounds.
Second on the Beacons with over 4 rebounds per game. One switch for each side. For Eastern Nazarene, they're going to bring in Cody Cook, the sophomore out of Yarmouth, Maine. For the Beacons, Dennis Hawkins Jr. back out there with his 2 fouls. Dennis Houghton, James Hawkins. Apologize for that mistake. There's a great feed running right through the paint and finishing is Nathan Vasquez, and the Beacons' lead is back to 2.
And that's a very good pass by Micah Simmons-Smalls.
Sinelli unable to finish over Rice as he had a nice cut to the basket. Sinelli almost steals it, and now Rice will use the glass to tie it up. 6-0 run for Eastern Nazarene as the Beacons getting their hands on some balls but unable to make the steal. On the other side, Eastern Naz with some good defense.
This is going to be a game of momentums, and the best thing you got to do is you got to cut the momentum short. You can't let teams go on 10-0 runs.
Beacons have already had one run of 10 or more points. Boyd nearly called for the travel there as he almost picked up his pivot foot. Lee with 10 on the shot clock looks to drive, tried to feed it back for Sinelli, but an easy steal for Rice. Ball is tipped up. Sinelli with the steal. Sinelli with a 3-on-3 chance finds Lee wide open on the near side, and he gives the Beacons the lead back at 39-37 with 75 seconds to play in the half. Not the cleanest of halves for either side as they've had quite a few starters forced to sit on the bench with foul trouble, but chance for one of these sides to go into the lead, go into the break with the lead and potentially some momentum here. Eastern Naz will get the inbound with 22 left on the shot clock, 1:04 to go in the half.
You see the intensity is so high in this last minute. You can expect that throughout the entire second half, I would assume.
Waldrop picks up the dribble, tries to find Rice with Sinelli all over him. Step back 3. Can't get any prettier than that as he puts his team back into the lead. Actually, they're going to call that one a long 2, even at 39.
Rice getting a little bit of his mojo back.
That's one of the tougher shots we've seen hit today. Boyd trying to feed Hawkins, stolen away by Rice. 7-second difference between shot clock and game clock, so the Beacons should get it back. Near turnover there by Simmons-Smalls. Charles Mitchell slow to get back up. Good drive here by Cook, and it's stolen away by Charles Mitchell with 23. The Beacons want to push. Mitchell leaves it off for Boyd. Boyd, the left-handed lay-in. He's too strong, and Rice has it. The Beacons, if they give the foul here, it'd be the 1-and-1. They certainly don't plan to give it up, but it wouldn't be an automatic 2. Waldrop playing for the last shot with 6. Looks to drive on the smaller lead. Kicks it out. Rice wants another one from distance. Too strong, and we head to the half, all tied up at 39. So, Gigi, I'm going to head down low, but any quick thoughts about this first half between two sides desperate for a win heading into break?
I think both sides need to be a little bit more aggressive on their finishing. You just get a Beacons breakaway right there, 3-on-2, and you don't finish. That's going to be super important, especially in a very close game. We'll go to a commercial break. We'll be right back with Seth Down Low with Coach Harris.
I'm Elizabeth Clavin, sophomore business management major from Edina, Minnesota. I love being a part of the volleyball team. Volleyball is what brought me to UMass Boston. I looked at our recruiting website one last time and saw UMass Boston on it, came out for a visit the next week, and it kind of hit all the boxes that I was looking for. In a good city, good academic school, good volleyball program, and everything I wanted. Although it was far away from home, I knew this is where I wanted to be. Winning 6 back-to-back LEC titles is really a dynasty, I think, and Terry has really focused hard on recruiting and building this dynasty and continuing to build a program that can continue to win championships, and it's really lucky to be a part of something this great. Last year I was the Little East Conference Defensive Player of the Year, All-Conference second team, NCAA Regional MVP of the regional tournament, ABC All-Region Honorable Mention, and New England Women's Volleyball Association All-Rookie Team and Honorable Mention. I think my favorite game would have to be playing in the regional championship last year. We played against a really good
Joined by head coach Jason Harris. Coach, a lot of different runs in this game. Neither team has seemed to be able to grab control and hold on to that. Is that the youth? They're very young as well. Is that maybe thinking about finals, or is that just not executing what you want and what Eastern Naz wants on the other side?
Yeah, we just didn't get it done. I mean, whatever excuse you want to give them, Seth, again, whatever you want, because probably all of them were right. You know, we're just inconsistent. We get it up to 8, and then our immaturity shows, and guys start doing it themselves, so we get really loose. And, you know, we've been talking about it. Games get to 8 points, and then we relax, and we're back in a ball game instead of it going to 15. You know, so it's frustrating. You know, so again, we got to find a way to win. We just got to find a way.
It's tough when you have a short rotation to deal with foul trouble. This is the second straight game where you've had some players play well and then get into foul trouble. What are you going to preach about maybe how this ref group is calling fouls, or what you need to do in the second half to keep some of those guys who are playing well out on the floor?
Play harder, because, you know, like if we leave our feet and we lose containment and they miss a shot and we foul on the block out, we can't yell at Hawk for fouling. We got to yell at, you know, Ty or whoever it is, or, you know, whoever's guarding the ball for not keeping them, you know, out of the lane. So it's our mistakes that are leading to our fouls. So it's not really the officials, it's our mistakes and our inconsistency.
Finally, Josh Rice is a phenomenal shooter, one of the best in the country.
Way too many looks, Seth. He's 62% from 3, and he's gotten 4 or 5 wide open looks. Now I don't even know if he's made one, but come on, that's a recipe for disaster. I'm telling you right now.
So we're going to see tighter defense in the second half?
I hope so.
Thanks for your time, Coach. We'll take a look right now at the highlights from the women's basketball game on Saturday. They also earned a win en route to a 9-1 start to the season, the best ever in program history. UMass Boston already out on the floor with 9 minutes left, so whatever conversation that Jason Harris had with his team, it was brief and probably to the point. Right now we're going to take a look at the halftime statistics, and Gigi, both teams shot pretty well in that first half. You see the Beacons at 48%, 80% from distance. They didn't take many, 4 of 5. On the other side, Eastern Naz at 5 of 15, just 33%. Free throws, you said that was a big focus, and right now Eastern Naz 6 of 6, the Beacons 9 of 13. That's a big no-no when it comes to winning close games.
Well, Seth, with both teams averaging around 18, 19 fouls per game, this game is going to get into the bonus, sometimes even into the double bonus. And Eastern Naz in the first half shooting 100% from the free throw. The Beacons only 89 or 69, I can't really
69.
see. 69%. That might come back to harm them a little bit. Free throws, it's easy money.
Looking at the two sides, foul trouble was an issue for Eastern Nazarene. 2 fouls on Trayvon Davis, Andrew Mitchell, Brendan Rogers, David Lopez for the Beacons. Much smaller rotation. 2 fouls on James Hawkins Jr. and Iser Barnes. The good news, no one has 3 fouls for either side. Take a look at the team leaders and some surprising names at the top. Iser Barnes with 13 points for the Beacons, despite the fact he was in some foul trouble. 13 points in 10 minutes, 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 3 from distance. Ty Lee with 8 points, normally a distributor. On the other side, David Lopez leads his team with Jacob Waldrop second with 8 points. And Josh Rice, that go-to scorer, 3 of 7 from the field, 1 of 4 from distance, limited to 7 points, most of those coming late.
And just to go back a little bit to what Coach Harris said at the beginning during the interview with you, they're not giving Rice that many looks, but he is a 69% or 61% three-point shooter. So you know that coming down to the length of the game, he might start hitting those threes, and that might be a recipe for disaster for the Beacons.
Yeah, he hasn't had that many looks, 3 of 7, but a couple of those looks have been open, and we've been surprised that he's maybe missed as many as he had. Right now we'll take a look at the halftime highlights that we had from that first half. Started off pretty well for UMass Boston, an early layup, and for the most part the Beacons were getting those looks as Ty Lee has a good one. And here's the nice interplay between Smith and Charles Mitchell that we saw twice. As Smith finds Mitchell, that was the first of 2, followed up by a nice three-pointer off some dribble drive penetration. It's Cheney from the quarter. Then we've got Barnes in transition, misses the first, and this is actually what leads to the technical foul. He does draw contact there. The arms are up, but he does draw contact going up, and here's one of the several and-one opportunities for David Lopez. So seen some strong finishes down low. We've also seen quite a few misses, especially for the Beacons. I know you've been emphasizing that. What else would you like to see out of UMass Boston offensively?
I kind of want to see players become a little bit less selfish, be a little bit unselfish, because you see Barnes driving to the hoop. Oftentimes you get Charles Mitchell in the corner kind of waving his hands like, hey, I'm open, I'm wide open. Barnes decides to go to the hoop. The shots have been going in, but if they don't start going in, you kind of got to look to dish out the ball a little bit. Eastern Naz has been doing a good job of that. I would like to see the Beacons do a better job of that. And if I'm Eastern Naz, I kind of want to cut down a little bit on the transitions that the Beacons are having.
Right now we'll take a look around the rest of the conference. Just one game going on, and that one's a later start. It's a game up north of here. Plymouth State University will travel to Green Mountain College. That one is 7 p.m. start. One of those very small schools, I believe in Vermont, could be in New Hampshire for a non-conference contest. Right now we'll look at the last men's hockey home game. It was a Beacons 7-5 win over Babson. The Beacons' next home game, that will be the Codfish Bowl, 53rd annual Codfish Bowl, a stacked tournament that will involve the number 2 team in the country in Adrian College and 2 teams just outside the top 20 in Williams and Salve Regina.
10 seconds to go in the minor penalty. Beacons emerge with possession. Dropping it back is Bauer. It's up. Off the post and in they score! And it's the man we were talking about who's offensive. Thought it would be easy, but it ain't for me. Trying to do it all by himself. Go backhand it is. That one skips away. Another chance for both. They score! You would have slipped my mind. Goal by Ryan Rubea. In from above is a killing kind. Rhino is shot, they score! Nolan Redler on the doorstep. Might have gotten the deflection. Nonetheless, a block from Mono. The Kennesaw Georgia. Oh, and then coming right back and strong. Goes to the turnover, they score! What a shot by Larkin. On even better play defensively from the freshman Zach Ross in Inside nice move. Here's a chance for Ross. He scores! Zach Ross from Nolan Redler. The Beacons have extended the lead to 4-1. Finish to the near side. That's the possession. Far side front score. With only 4 players in the offensive zone. Go back to the race all the things I've seen. Even if I try, 'cause Lord knows I've tried. Can't escape and I can't shake the pain inside. Crazy when she comes and crazy as for Gallagher, he scores! Darren Gallagher! And the Beacons and the Beaters continuing to pile it on. 5 points. Ain't no doubt about it. He scores! James Guthrie on the 5th Dakota team. And the Beacons are piling on that bump up. Come back and turn it on. Just like a simple song. Can't get you out of my head. Something scores just like that. A power play goal scored by number 24, Matthew Morrow. Can't get you out of my head. Deflection, they score! A fluky deflection. And an initial shot from Ryan McDougal. As it went off the Beacon and it goes to McDougal.
That was the Beacons men's hockey highlights against Babson College. The Beacons, after a loss this past Saturday against UMass Dartmouth, sit at number 7/8 in the country in the national rankings. Right now we'll take a look around the rest of Beaconville. All the other Beacons teams have closed up shop for the holidays and for finals period. The men's hockey team back in action. They're the first game after break, or in the midst of break, on the 29th of December at 1 p.m. They'll take on Williams College. The finals of that tournament on Saturday the 30th. Women's basketball will take their 10-1 record, best record in program history, to MIT on the 30th. And then women's hockey, they're off till the 5th of January, 7 p.m. The track team not back in action till the 16th of January. So a nice long break for the Beacons Tracksters. All right, JG, we've got about 45 seconds to go before the start of half number 2. Who's the biggest player to watch here for UMass Boston in this second half? They're going to go into the break with a W.
For UMass Boston, I'll give Jake Smith. I'm going to give the player to watch that you said was going to be the biggest impact in this game. I'll give it to him. And then for Eastern Nazarene, David Lopez. Definitely, he's already got 10 points in the first half. I think he only has about 1 foul, if I'm not mistaken. He's not in foul trouble. They're definitely going to be looking to them to feed the post a little bit. Jake Smith got to play some good defense against him.
Smith has 5 points and 3 rebounds in 11 minutes. Lopez 10 points on 4 of 5 shooting in 9 minutes. He does have 2 fouls, but so does most of Eastern Nazarene's roster that has played thus far. Eastern Naz has 4 players with 2 fouls. The Beacons with 2. Teams combined for 18 fouls in that first half. For Eastern Nazarene, they already have their starting 5 out there. It's going to be Cheney, Micah Simmons-Smalls, Trayvon Davis, along with Rice and Waldrop. So the same starting 5 we saw. For the Beacons, they're going to bring out a different group. We saw Mike Boyd and Charles Mitchell start the first half on the bench. The first time they hadn't started a game. They broke a couple of team rules, but they're back out there. They'll start the second half along with Dayson Sinelli, James Hawkins Jr., and Iser Barnes. So 2 freshmen along with a sophomore and 2 seniors as the Beacons continue to miss the services of Kevin Lewis-Jean, Bernard Taylor, and Charlie Mitchell, all out with injuries for the past 3 games. Sinelli from the 3-point line, not his forte, across for Barnes. Boyd thought about the 3 from the wing. He'll drive in amongst 4 players, leaves it off for Sinelli, who drew contact, and the foul. That one's going to be on Josh Rice. And Rice was one of the players who didn't have foul trouble in the first half. That's just his first.
And like I talked about before, unselfishness on the Beacons' part, and that was a great drive by Michael Boyd, dishing it off to Sinelli. Would have loved to see the basket go in and go for an and one, but getting the to the line, always good.
Sinelli too strong on the first. He's now 1 of 3 on the day for a guy who shot it extremely well in this season, 79.4%. See if he can make it 2 of 4. Sinelli's second one is off the front of the rim, batted there by Hawkins. And an inauspicious start there for Sinelli offensively, as the Beacons had a chance potentially for the N1. Instead, they end up with nothing. And Barnes, on the other hand, too aggressive, bats it out of the hands of Waldrop, and he'll immediately be replaced by Ty Lee. As Barnes had 2 fouls before anyone else, and he's the first to 3 fouls as he walks dejectedly to the bench just 29 seconds into the second half.
And I'm a little critical on why Jason Harris put him to guard the point, because being a point guard in high school, when it's on that fast break, a lot of times the fouls are stupid little hand fouls like that.
Josh Rice from straight away off the screen knocks it down. So Rice now has hit 2 threes, 2 of 5 on the day. Give him 10 points, averages 17 on the season, and he's a guy who can get red hot from distance. Came in the top 41 in the country in three-point made field goals, three-pointers per game, and three-point field goal percentage. Boyd nearly turned it over with 6 on the shot clock. Finds Hawkins, can't catch it. He'll throw it out for Mitchell, who struggles with it. 1 second, Lee's going to have to huck it up. Not in time, and the Beacons 0 for 2 on the free throw line in their first possession of the half, and then a shot clock violation. Not the way they were looking to start this second half, as they already trail by 3. Waldrop across for Rice, who's been guarded by Sinelli for the most part. Sinelli, one of the Beacons' more athletic defenders. And we've got a hand check foul on Michael Boyd, so it's the first on the Beacons, and for Boyd, that's foul number 2. He's the 3rd Beacon with 2 or more fouls.
And I said at the beginning, worrying about fouls on your bigs. Now you kind of got to start worrying a little bit of fouls on the guards. You got Barnes with 3, Boyd with 2.
Beacons don't have much depth off the bench. Today they've gone with 8 players, and Dennis Houghton was in there with the start because of that little bit of infraction by a pair of Beacons freshmen, but he hasn't seen any time since he was pulled 3 minutes into the first half. Ty Lee takes the pass from Boyd, stutter steps his way to the basket, and Hawkins cleans up the trash. A nice putback to bring the Beacons within 1. Simmons Smalls across the half-court line, leaves it off for Waldrop, who asked for the pick. Instead, he'll hand it off for Davis. Davis across for Rice. Has already hit 1 3 in the second half. Back over for Waldrop with 10 on the shot clock. Waldrop being guarded by the smaller Mitchell. Nearly turned it over there. Cheney thought about the step back, and it's Davis over top of Hawkins. Rebound bounces around and finds Hawkins, who may have been poked in the eye there as he's slow to get into the offensive end. Charles Mitchell from the wing, and the Beacons have the lead right back at 44-42.
I'm pretty sure that's Mitchell's first 3 of the game, if I'm not mistaken. And
that would be his first. Didn't attempt one in the first half.
That's something you don't see a lot from him. Definitely good to see him getting in the groove a little bit. I would just expect a couple more of those, or at least a couple more attempts.
So the Beacons almost turn it over there, and they do. Lee was looking for Hawkins, who turned his back. And the Beacons, a bad turnover. Every time we see UMass Boston get a little bit of a run going, they make mistakes. Every time Eastern Nazarene gets a little bit of a run, they make mistakes. So that's now 3 team fouls on the Beacons. Waiting to see who was issued that particular foul. We'll see some subs on both sides, as that one's going to be the first on Charles Mitchell. For UMass Boston, Smith back into the game for Hawkins, joining Sinelli, Lee, Charles Mitchell, and Boyd. For Eastern Nazarene, they're going to bring in their most efficient player from the first half, David Lopez, out there with Rice, Cheney, Simmons, Smalls, and Waldrop, as Sinelli nearly had the steal against Josh Rice. Sinelli gives up 4 inches, but he's got the athleticism and length to guard Rice. They'll now face off in the post with 5. The turnaround, it's off the mark. Lopez mistimed the rebound, still grabbed it. He's blocked by Smith, and it'll be Waldrop setting up with a new 30. Finds Simmons Smalls, cuts to the hoop, left hand lay-in, and we're all tied at 44.
That's just a good drive right there. Nothing you can do about that. Made a great move and got 2 points out of it. Beacons
in the offensive end, just past the 3-minute mark of the second half. It's controlled by Charles Mitchell over for Lee. Lee looks to drive baseline, kicks it over for Smith, who has really struggled to make some of these catches today. Cost the Beacons 2 points, kicks it across for Boyd, and it doesn't matter. They get 3 instead of 2 and a 3-point lead.
And that's Michael Boyd's second three-pointer of the game. I think him and Mitchell might be switching roles a little bit this game.
Boyd an efficient 2 of 3, and there's a turnover forced by Charles Mitchell. Ends up in the hands of Boyd. Finds Smith running out, and he's too strong on the lane, but Boyd strips it out of the hands of Lopez. Beacons are playing with fire here with some of these mistakes offensively. Lee tries to find Smith. It's stolen away by Lopez. Into the front court we go. Cheney kicks it over for Simmons Smalls, who was wide open, but fortunately not one of the potent three-point shooters. Lopez out of his range as he's behind the three-point line, gives it off for Waldrop. We've got an offensive foul on Rice as he battled down low with Smith. That's the second foul on Rice, both of the half, and we'll get immediate timeout. And I think both of these coaches are going to look to calm down their players. Seen a lot of frustration here in the opening 4:05 of half number 2.
What separates UMass Boston from other schools is the fact that a large percentage of students commute. For me, it takes 2 hours each day to go to and from school, but every second has been worth it because the students that come here are serious about learning, they value their education, and understand where it'll take them in the future. This is what UMass Boston means to me.
.47-44 UMass Boston with 15:55 to play. And Gigi, this seems like one of those games that's going to end up coming down to the wire. We've seen so many of them this year. The Beacons have actually done a decent job in some of those close games. They were able to hold off Wheelock College in a 3-point win, held off Fisher College in the next game, and then a tough loss against Bridgewater State. This is going to be interesting with so many young players for UMass Boston, how they handle it, especially those tired legs are going to show at some point. 6 games in 13 days with a short rotation. Some point you're not going to have the legs late in the game.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but as I said in the first half, this game's going to come down to who can produce from the charity stripe.
Ty Lee, another turnover. Player who came in with 22 assists versus 12 turnovers, but gives it up there. That's his second consecutive possession with a turnover. Dennis Houghton back in the game. There's Lopez looking from distance, and that's interesting. It wasn't necessarily in the scout. He's now 4 of 9 on the year, but Lopez gets his first points of the second half to tie it at 47.
And that's something you love seeing from your bigs, not only people who can produce down on the post, but also shoot from the perimeter.
Lopez came in averaging 5.6 points per game. He's got 13 already. Charles Mitchell the answer from the near corner, and the Beacons lead 50-47. UMass Boston brought Dennis Houghton back into the game as Sinelli's going to get a short rest. And Houghton, who's very athletic, will be the player guarding Rice. Smith forces the turnover. Boyd runs with Houghton, keeps it himself, draws a bit of contact. Not enough for the foul, but it's a 5-0 Beacons run with 14:50 to go in the half.
You think I can change my player to watch for the second half to Michael Boyd?
You can absolutely change it. You can change it as late as the 5-minute mark. Then you have to stick with your answer. Lopez over to Rice. Great pass down low, but the Beacons immediately double and force the missed shot from Noah Cheney. There's a rifle of a pass there from Rice. Lee drives, can't finish, rebound loose. Who else? It's David Lopez, who's able to wrestle the rebound away from the Beacons.
I don't know if my eyesight's not the greatest, but I think I might have seen a little bit of deflection over there.
There's a good look, and Dennis Houghton face guarding Rice, able to knock it out of bounds on the drive from Waldrop. So we'll see Simmons Smalls head to the bench, and he's replaced by Cody Cook. We didn't see much of the sophomore in the first half. Cook played just 2 minutes, but the sophomore of Yarmouth Maine back in. In looking up little bit of information on Yarmouth Main as there's a deep three that's off the mark. Lee, the rebound for the Beacons. Yarmouth has had human civilization, or at least human contact, since 2000 BC. Interesting fact if you're into that kind of stuff, is Lee's able to finish in transition. The Beacons lead by 7. It's now a 7-0 Beacons run. We've got a foul away from the ball, and I believe it's going to be Houghton this time. Who asked who me, but he was holding on to Rice. And that's the second on Dennis Houghton, who will be replaced by Dason Sinelli. Good timing for the Beacons with 13:44 to go.
That's something you don't see very often, our fouls away from the ball, but we've had at least 4 or 5 in this game alone.
Seen a lot of offensive fouls, a lot of fouls away from the ball. Great move by Lopez, but he can't finish. And the longer Smith able to grab the rebound for the Beacons.
Lopez is definitely testing Jake Smith.
Jake Smith from straight away, and he's just short there off the front rim. He's capable of knocking down the 3 on the year, 2 of 4, but he couldn't connect on that particular occasion. Still 13:20 to go. The Beacons lead by 7. They've led by as many as 8, but right now trying to keep Eastern Nazarene cold as the Beacons in the midst of a 7-0 run. Rice up top to the near side. First time we've seen Luke Dagley in the game. Dagley kicks it to the near side for Cody Cook. Back for Dagley. He's a very great three-point shooter, and he knocks it down. 2,000-point scorer at South Shore Christian Academy gets his first points of the night. Charles Mitchell looking for the answer. Too strong, but Smith the rebound. Smith has to pick up the dribble back for Boyd. The Beacons with a new 30. Boyd thought about it, and he'll take it after the dribble. Back-to-back threes, 1 for each side, and we've got an Eastern Nazarene timeout. UMass Boston leads 57-50 with 12:37 to play. See if the Beacons can hold on to this lead after the break.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
Really? I trust Dave too.
57-50 with 12:37 to play. And Gigi, your current player to watch for UMass Boston, Michael Boyd, is off to a really good start, especially to start this half.
Yeah, absolutely. Being 3 from 4 from the three-point line and contesting, David Lopez's three-pointer over there, that's what gets the momentum going. Your team hits a three-pointer, you get an easy layup, and all of a sudden you're up in a 5-0 run.
Well, we expected Eastern Nazarene to be the team that was really strong from distance. They're shooting well, 8 of 19, 42.1%, better than their season average. The Beacons, though, 8 of 11 for 60%, well above their season average of just about 33%, as Lopez being guarded by a pair of Beacons, and he throws it away. Charles Mitchell able to come up with a steal. Mitchell near side for Barnes, working with those 3 fouls, back into the game with 12:22 to play. Near side, Barnes is 3 of 3 from distance, kicks it across for Lee. Not much of a three-point shooter. Right back for Barnes. He wants to try it, and it's in and out there as Smith nearly pulled down the rebound. The other side, Eastern Naz is going to send Andrew Mitchell, one of their typical starters, a sophomore forward out of Campobello, South Carolina, to the scorer's table. He had early foul trouble. A very strong big for this Eastern Naz team. Rice wide open. Lopez from the corner. Too strong. Rebound ripped out of the hands of a Lion. The Beacons running 2-on-1. Mitchell trying to leave it for Barnes. Leaves it off for Smith. And Mitchell had not established position is what the referees are claiming. Jason Harris didn't believe it. The issue was Smith tapped it over. Mitchell had been out of bounds. Stepped back in. And according to the referee, he had not established position inbounds. You see that a lot in football, and in this case, hurts the Beacons in basketball.
And I'm a little bit upset about that call, actually, because that would have been great ball movement there by the Beacons. You get a 2-on-1 fast break out there, and the fact that they couldn't convert kind of hope that doesn't hurt them in the long run.
Right now, UMass Boston's in the midst of, I think it's now a 10-3 run. It was 7-0. Eastern Naz knocked down a 3. The Beacons answered. But the big thing right now is the Beacons haven't been able to extend it out. As you see the UMass Boston cheerleaders, Beacons have gone on a couple of these runs, and then they haven't been able to keep it going. The good news is they've kept Eastern Nazarene from immediately answering. But if you're a young team, or if you're any team, you want to make a 7-point lead a double-digit lead and put a team away, especially here at home.
And that's exactly what Coach Harris was saying during the halftime interview. We're getting to an 8-0 run, and then they're not finishing. They're not continuing it out into a 15-0 run and extending the lead to 15. They're kind of letting Eastern Nazarene cut it back a little bit and get back into this game. And if you're a team on either side, if you start going on a run, you got to keep that going. You got to kind of kick teams down a little bit when they're down.
The good news is that while foul trouble was a possible issue in the first half, I've only seen one player reach the 3 foul mark. That was Iser Barnes early on in the first half, or rather early on in the second half. So both teams should have their full array of players down the stretch. For the Beacons coming out of the break, it's going to be Charles Mitchell, Ty Lee, Jake Smith, Dason Sinelli, and Iser Barnes. 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and a senior. Eastern Naz will bring Andrew Mitchell back in, who picked up those 2 early fouls. They're going to go with Jacob Waldrip, team starting point guard, along with Josh Rice and a pair of bench players, Cody Cook and Luke Dagley. Dagley, who has the ball right now, hasn't seen that much time, 29 minutes on the year in 6 games, but he's 4 of 4 from behind the arc for 17 points. So that was almost an over and back on Waldrip, who nearly lost the ball into the backcourt. Dagley with the ball, finds Waldrip, kicks it back over. Dagley looking for a 5th 3 in 5 attempts. He's 2 of 2 on the night, 5 of 5 on the year, and it's 57-53. So a little instant offense from Dagley, the freshman out of Weymouth.
And we see James Hawkins over there in the back, kind of running a little bit back and forth. We wonder if he's injured or not, or just fatigued legs.
Maybe even cramping. Who knows? As it's Charles Mitchell, another answer attempt. This one's just short. And Eastern Naz has a chance to make this a 1-possession game.
You said it at the beginning, Seth, with a player who's so used to starting and he hasn't started this game, you wonder if Charles Mitchell is getting a little bit in his own head.
Good strong move there by Mitchell, but Smith able to alter the shot and grabs the rebound. Charles will try again. This time it's true, and the lead back out to 7.
I guess not.
Charles might just not have enjoyed that comment, but Charles Mitchell, a tremendous competitor, and I think a big thing, we don't see his twin brother Charlie, who's out with a knee injury today, but the Mitchell twins have been doubted their entire life because of their lack of size, and these are guys who play much bigger than they are. He's top 2 on the Beacons in points, rebounds, assists, and steals, and an offensive foul against Andrew Mitchell. The second or third time we've seen that call from that particular referee. It's now 3 on Andrew Mitchell. First player for the Lions to reach 3 fouls, and just the 3rd on the Lions, as Andrew Mitchell will be replaced by David Lopez, the red-hot scorer out of Miami.
The Beacons really have to look to cut off David Lopez right now, and that's going to be Jake Smith's job.
Lopez, we saw in the first half, 4 of 5, all of his shots coming inside the paint, but he's attempted a couple threes here in the second half and hit 1. Dason Sinelli takes the handoff over for Boyd. Boyd right back for Sinelli. Just 1 made 3-pointer on the season, not his particular spot offensively. Boyd with 9 on the shot clock, near side for Barnes. Charles Mitchell's hit a couple, goes over Rice, too strong, but the rebound ends up in the hands of Boyd, thanks to a push-off, as he'll pick up, I think, his 2nd foul there, working against the smaller Noah Cheney. That's actually 3 on Boyd. So 3 on Boyd, 3 on Barnes, and 5 total on the Beacons with 9:50 to play.
And if you're the Beacons right now, you got, like you said, 3 on Boyd, 3 on Barnes. You don't have that many guards. It's going to come down to 3 guards playing the final 8 minutes of the game, which can get very tiring.
You've got Ty Lee on the bench, so they do have 1 substitute for this current 3-guard lineup, but that's about it unless they go much deeper into the rotation with James Morgan, as David Lopez knocks down a deep 2 to make it 3 to cut the deficit to 4.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of the Beacons women's basketball player, Joey Grassi, a player who can produce down in the post and also shoot from the perimeter as well.
Charles Mitchell has had an answer every time the Lions have hit from distance. This time from the near wing, and the lead back out to 7. UMass Boston used the 7-0 run, and ever since have had an answer every time the Lions have been able to score. Ball in the hands of Brendan Rogers, who's double-teamed, able to hang on. Lopez, the ball fake, the Euro step, the left-hand lands, no good. Fights for his own rebound, in amongst 3 Beacons. David Lopez is on fire right now. He's keeping his team in the game single-handedly. We'll take a break after this Eastern Naz timeout. UMass Boston leads by 5 with 8:54 to play.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
63-58, and Gigi, we talked about players to watch at the half. Well, either way, you were 100% right on one of the 2 players. Let's look at the stat line right now on David Lopez. This is a guy who came in averaging 5.6 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. It's well above both of those marks.
And the fact that he has 18 points and 7 rebounds, I don't doubt that he's going to leave this game with at least a double-double. He's been phenomenal down on the post, and he's really challenging the Beacons bigs. We haven't seen him challenge James Hawkins as much, but he's given Jake Smith, a run for his money.
Lopez, 7 of 12 from the field, 2 of 3 from distance. He's also 2 of 2 from the line. He's probably only played about 18 to 20 minutes as James Hawkins is back in there. Remember, Hawkins was hit in the eye right before he went out, so it also might be just checking out the vision as he finds Boyd from 3, drains it, and the Beacons lead is out to 8. That's their largest of the half. Time for their largest of the game as UMass Boston has just been absurdly hot from distance, a big reason why they lead by 8.
Michael Boyd's got 12 points strictly from the perimeter.
Boyd, a 46.5% three-point shooter. Lopez, an easy bucket, but give the credit on that one to Brendan Rogers, doing everything but the finish. We reach our second-to-last media timeout of the day. The Beacons lead by 6 with 8:25 left. Can they pull out the victory and head to 6-5 before finals period starts?
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
$66-60 in favor of UMass Boston with 8:25 to go. For Eastern Nazarene, they're going to bring out David Lopez, Brendan Rogers, Josh Rice, who has not had his best of games. An early 3 to start this half, but I think he's still stuck on 10 points. Noah Cheney and Luke Dagley been in the game for the past 5 to 6 minutes. Seen a lot more action than we're used to seeing. For UMass Boston, Iser Barnes, Charles Mitchell, Dayson Sinelli, Mike Boyd, and James Hawkins Jr. against the 2-3 zone. Interesting that Eastern Naz has switched up on this possession.
Yeah, you don't see them playing a lot of 2-3 zone. They're usually more of a man-to-man team.
Michael Boyd with another 3, stretching the lead out to 9 on the scout. It's mostly man-to-man, a very little of the 2-3, and it's interesting, Gigi, the 2-3 and just its most basic thing, you're trying to take away baskets down low and you're giving up more three-point looks. that's where the Beacons have been their most lethal here in the second half.
Yeah, when you get a guy like Michael Boyd who's red hot from the perimeter, you don't want to leave him open.
Lopez, the jump stop, finishes over Hawkins, the one guy who just will not be slowed down. He has to have had at least the last 8, possibly 10 in a row for Eastern Naz. The Beacons lead by 7 with 7.5 left. Boyd across for Barnes. Had the early hot hand, is slowed down here in the second half. Hawkins the handoff for Mitchell. Up top for Boyd. He wants another one from straight away. Too strong. And David Lopez rips down the board.
And if you're the Beacons, you get to wonder, will they switch into 2-3 zone to kind of stop Lopez a little bit?
UMass Boston very, very rarely uses the zone. Typically, it starts potentially on a press zone, and then they'll go back to the man-to-man. Right now, it's Rogers working from the free throw line. Had Rice, finds him, and Rice is too strong. Contact there on Lopez as Sinelli flew in for the rebound. No call. That one was probably one of the plays where the refs have let a little bit more go than we're used to seeing. Boyd with hard pressure there from Cheney, loses the dribble, and Cheney out ahead of the pack. Mitchell tries to get there, and he blocks him! 5'10", a huge rejection. They're going to say he was out of bounds, but that was perfectly timed, and that's one of the best plays that we've seen out of one of the Mitchell twins this year. Charles the whole way knew what he was doing, and that was a clean rejection from the Boston native.
That's a highlight reel right there. That's a slow mode highlight reel.
That is one of the plays of the semester, as we'll bring that to you before the next stoppage. And the only bad thing there for the Beacons is that Mitchell landed out of bounds when he picked it up. It'll stay with Eastern Nazarene as the ball's floated across the near side into the hands of Cheney. Waldrop with it, has to cut it back to the near side. Barnes nearly had the steal. Into the corner, Lopez wants another three, and he's too strong. Long rebound into the hands of Hawkins. 7-point game, 6:20 to go. That was a huge play from Mitchell, denying an easy 2 for the Lions. And we take a look at that replay at the next break. It's interesting to see that Mitchell probably slowed down a bit to make it look like an easier play before turning on the burners. Now it's Barnes, drives, finds Hawkins wide open, and an easy 2 with the left hand.
And that's what you like to see from Iser Barnes. You get him driving to the hoop, you know he's a strong driver, and you dish it off to Hawkins.
You ask for that unselfishness out of Iser, and he reciprocates at least on that possession. Lopez across for Rogers. Eastern Naz needs some buckets. There's a long 2, and a beautiful lefty floater from Brendan Rogers to cut the deficit back to 7.
We get Ty Lee back in the game. We haven't seen a lot of him out in the second half. I expect a lot from him. You know, he's a great assister.
Up top, it's Sinelli, a couple dribbles, leaves it off for Hawkins, who can hit from that distance. Instead of leave it off for Sinelli, as Boyd is already back at the scorer's table with 5:20 to go. UMass Boston just has the 4 guards, and Boyd might be the hottest right now offensively. Barnes from the free throw line across for Hawkins. Couple dribbles, throws it up with the right hand, awkwardly up there. And Lopez, that's at least his 9th, if not 10th board of the game to go along with his team-high 18 points. Rice looking for his own offense. Instead, he'll give it off to Lopez. Off the screen, it's Waldrop into the lane, rejected by Hawkins.
That's back-to-back blocks right there. You couldn't ask for better defense than the Beacons right now.
And it's going to be Lopez heading to the bench. He needs a rest. They'll bring out Trayvon Davis, another guy who's strong around the basket and a good offensive rebounder, but haven't seen much from distance as Trayvon is yet to attempt a three-pointer this year. Waldrop over for Cheney, but instead it's an offensive foul. Who is this one going to go against? It's going to be the 3rd foul on either Rice or Davis. Both currently have 2, waiting on the scoreboard. It's difficult to tell from up top. And it's going to be Trayvon Davis whistled just off the bench for the offensive foul. That's just the 4th on Eastern Nazarene, 5 against the Beacons, 4:41 to play. Charles Mitchell over for Boyd. Thought about the 3. The rest of the bench just behind him was ready to get up and celebrate. Boyd, a hard drive, kicks it over for Hawkins from 18. Too strong. Ball batted around, and Trayvon Davis comes down with it for Eastern Nazarene. Still 4:24 to play. The Beacons have led for the entire second half. Trayvon Davis goes to work on the block, kicks it out up top. Cheney thought about the 3, drives, kicks it into the corner for Waldrop. Waldrop out of North Carolina to the near side. Rice wants a 3. It would be his 2nd of the half. He's off the mark, and the combination of Mitchell and Hawkins enough to grab the rebound for the Beacons.
If you're Eastern Nazarene, you want Rice to get red hot right now. We got a little bit under 4 minutes in the game. You need him to start producing.
Lee looks to drive over 3 players, floats it in. Ty Lee, so versatile for the Beacons, and that stretches the lead out to 9, tying the largest lead of the game for the Beacons. Waldrop headed towards his bench. He won't call the timeout right now. Waldrop looks to drive, leaves it off for Davis, and Davis couldn't make the catch. The Beacons have numbers ahead for Sinelli. Goes over the right hand and uses the glass instead of trying to dunk it. Saw that work out very poorly against Tufts last week. And Sinelli will take the easy 2 to stretch the lead at double digits for the first time today, 75-64.
That's good defense by the Beacons. You get Ty Lee with a great steal over there. Unselfishness gives it to Dason. Easy layup.
Into the corner, Waldrop looking for 3. Knocks it down, and that gets this game back to within striking distance. An 8-point Beacons lead with 3:05 to play. Eastern Naz has lost 4 in a row. The Beacons coming off a loss on Tuesday to Suffolk, their first in 10 years. Which of these teams is going to head into the break on a W with all smiles? Lee needs help, gives it off to Mitchell, drives through a player, and they're going to call it offensive. A nice job by Waldrop to step in front. 16 foul on the Beacons, just the second on Mitchell. We'll take a media timeout, our last one of the day. The Beacons lead 75-67.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university.
UMass Boston leads 75-67 in the final game before finals period starts. UMass Boston will not have another athletic event until the 29th of December. That's the men's hockey team, the men's basketball team off until the 2nd of January. Beacons men's team looking to finish it off, move to 6-5. This is their 6th game in 13 days. Eastern Nazarene's been off for a week, looking for that first win since November 25th. As they will face some full court pressure right now. Eastern Naz will go with Waldrop, Rice, Lopez back into the game alongside Cheney and Brendan Rogers. For the Beacons, it's Charles Mitchell alongside Dason Sinelli, Smith, Boyd, and Lee. There's a strong finish down low from Rice. He's got 5 points in the last 2 minutes, and that should be 15 on the game. Beacons lead by 6 with 2:25 to play. A year ago it was a 75-70 win. This year you're likely to have to score 80, possibly 85 points to get the win. Great ball fake from Smith. Tries to find Sinelli. Sinelli with the right hand well short, and Rice the rebound. A chance to get this back to a one-possession game as Sinelli gives up the foul. Good news is that's only 6, so it won't lead to the 1-and-1, but a foul 92 feet away from the basket. Not what you want to do with this little time left. Just a second on Dason.
That's just Dason being a little antsy over there. Can't blame him too hard. He's being aggressive, but you got to know when you can wrap your arms around someone in the game, and it's usually never.
Full court pressure here as Lee's not going to leave Waldrop. Rice is going to have to do it himself. Double team comes, poked away by Lee. It'll stay with the Lions, but they have just 2 seconds to get it across the half-court line. On the inbound, it's going to be Noah Cheney. So Eastern Naz is going to try to inbound it across the half-court line. Rice back to the near side. And this can be a difficult play for Cheney. Throws it across. Rice is falling, and they're going to say no foul. It'll go back to the Beacons. Gigi, even if Rice doesn't fall there, and I'm not sure if it was a Beacons push or not, I don't know if he got to that ball either way.
I don't think he did. He's a tall guy, but I don't think that ball was just way overshot.
Yeah, Noah Cheney getting a little bit desperate, knowing they had to get it across in 2 seconds, and the Beacons will take the turnover there. Big turn of events as Eastern Naz had a chance to cut it to a one-possession game. 6-point lead with 1:48 to go. Expect the Beacons to use up this entire shot clock. Boyd being double-teamed, floats it down low, looking for Lee, but a great job by Waldrop to get in the way of that pass. Waldrop easily breaks the full court pressure. Cheney from the near side, in and out there. And the Beacons catch another break as Noah Cheney shoots it at 45.9% from distance, but couldn't connect on that particular possession. 80 seconds remaining. The Beacons have led this entire second half, looking to hold on for win number 6. Lee with Waldrop providing some pressure, avoiding the 5 count. Lee has Sinelli up top. Sinelli with 4, leaves it for Mitchell. This would be huge. He's too strong. Smith tried to bat the rebound out for a teammate. Ahead, it's Brendan Rogers, and it's stolen away by Charles Mitchell. The Beacons are going to be conservative here, and they'll try to dribble it out. Mitchell will dribble it back out top for Lee. 20 seconds on the shot clock. Eastern Naz doesn't need to give the foul, but they will, and that's just the 5th on Eastern Naz. They've got to give 2 more to shoot free throws as Brendan Rogers will commit the first of the 3 fouls.
You don't hear us say this often, but this is kind of the one time that it's, a little on the lesser side of you not having enough fouls. If they were up by the bonus, it would have been better because you miss a one-on-one and it's your opportunity now to go on offense.
So for Brendan Rogers, that's the 3rd. Just the 5th on the team. If you're UMass Boston, you don't care who gets this particular inbounds, but on the next inbounds, you probably want to find Lee or Sinelli, 2 guys who shoot it over 75%. Charles Mitchell, the inbounder, actually a pretty poor free throw shooter as Lee nearly lost it, draws the contact there, and that could have been much worse for the Beacons as Waldrop, so intent on giving the foul, didn't see the loose ball.
And I just want to bring you guys back to about 30 seconds before all this happened. That steal by Charles Mitchell, huge play for the game. Huge play in the game. You get possession back. You burn another 20 seconds off the clock. Great play.
Waldrop called for his second, team 6. So this next foul will lead to the 1-and-1, and it's tapped away on the inbounds looking for Lee in transition. Lopez goes over the top of Mitchell, and Charles Mitchell grabs the rebound. Another huge play there by the smallest player as he did enough to influence the shot of Lopez, and now Charles Mitchell, mentioned it, not a great free throw shooter, will head to the line for the 1-and-1 as the Beacons have really just been teetering on catastrophe here with some of their mistakes. They still hold this 6-point lead.
And you saw the frustration in David Lopez's face. He wanted that layup to bring it to a 4-point game, close the gap a little bit.
Mitchell, a 46.9% free throw shooter, misses the first. Still 35 seconds to go. Lopez picks up the dribble, able to find Waldrop up ahead with 30, and the Beacons called for the reach, and that's Charles Mitchell, and not one of the guys you want to give the foul to. Jacob Waldrop on the year, 18 of 20. That's 90%. So we'll see Jake Smith come in and replace Charles Mitchell, who's so good, but in a free throw shooting situation, you just can't have him out there at this point.
Yeah, I said at the beginning of the game, it's going to come down to who can hit their shots on the foul line, and if you get Waldrop hitting 2 here, it becomes a way closer game than the Beacons wanted it to be.
Micah Simmons-Smalls will replace Lopez. Maybe some defense for offense, or just a guy who's got a few more fouls to give. So Waldrop shooting the 1-and-1 as well. He's too strong, and Smith the rebound. Eastern Naz has to give the foul, and they'll give it to Smith, who's actually a pretty decent free throw shooter for a big. Jake on the year, 11 of 17 coming in. Hasn't attempted one in the second half, but he did go 3 of 4. So he's now 14 of 21 on the year. That's good for 66%. And he'll head to the line for the 1-and-1 as Waldrop picks up his second.
You got to wonder on the Waldrop foul if that was maybe a lack of experience. He's only a sophomore. If maybe the intensity of the game got to him a little bit.
Andrew Mitchell and David Lopez will check in. Brendan Rogers and Micah Simmons-Smalls checking out. Beacons now lead by 7. You have to expect Eastern Nazarene to start shooting some threes. They have some great three-point shooters out there. Cheney, Waldrop, Rice especially, and then even Lopez as Smith hits 2 big ones, and he'll be replaced by Charles Mitchell out there for his defense. Might not be the last time we see that switch as Smith has proven himself to be a capable three-point shooter. Still 27 seconds left. The Beacons lead by 8. Waldrop over for Cheney. Rice running around the screen. Barnes shadowing him. Waldrop will drive, kicks it out for a wide open Cheney over Mitchell. Hits the side of the backboard, and it's picked up by Sinelli. Sinelli's just going to hold on to it as Lopez gives the foul, and that's a guy you want shooting free throws. Dason came in just under 80% from the line.
And that's just frustration over there by Eastern Nazarene. Would have been a completely different basketball game if he had hit that shot in the corner. Great opportunity now, though, for the Beacons. Dason Sinelli, a great free throw shooter, trying to extend this to at least a 3-possession game.
Right now, it's still the 1-1, the 19th foul on Eastern Nazarene. Next one will lead to the double bonus. Sinelli's missed a couple tonight, but he could end this one if he hits the first and second. Instead, he's short. Eastern Nazarene still in it, but under 10 seconds to play. Rice, the step back three, drains it. He's got phenomenal range. Beacons need to get the ball inbounds as Lee will catch it. And with a 5-point lead, one free throw could essentially end it. Two would certainly end it. Just 2.3 seconds left. Eastern Nazarene is clutching at straws at this point. That's the 5th on David Lopez. That'll end his day. He's had a phenomenal game. He's actually going to shake the hands of all the Beacons coaching staff. They're happy to see him go. He finished with a double-double. And Brendan Rogers will end up checking back in.
Ty Lee shooting 76% from the free throw line. And wow, third player who has missed their first shot in these last 3 fouls.
Good news is this is the double bonus, but still something the Beacons will work on. Lee drains the second, 78-72, and Rice will attempt one long heave, and that one is off the mark. So the Beacons, after a nervy finish, move to 6-5 on the year, 500 or better for the 3rd straight year heading into the break. And this was a fun one, Gigi, as the Beacons able to hold on, and a big part of it was the play of their freshmen who continue to impress.
Absolutely. You get a game like this right before winter break, everyone's a little stressed out about finals, about everything going on. Definitely a great team win for the Beacons. You see a lot of faces shown out today. Michael Boyd performed excellently, and, Eastern Nazarene put up a very good fight.
But this is always a tough game right before the break. We just found a way to win, so we'll take it. And coach does a really good job with Eastern Naz, and they're a good test for us. But we'll take it, Seth.
We came into the game looking at the stats, and Eastern Nazarene shoots the heck out of the ball from distance. Instead today, 12 of 20. How big was that when Eastern Naz was trying to make some of those moves midway through the second half when you were able to answer every time with the 3 of your own?
They were 12 for 20 from 3?
You were 12 for 20.
Oh, man. So, some of that I think is a little fool's gold. So, when you make them, it's a good shot. If you miss it, it's not. But we'll take it. We probably had our most physical practice of the year yesterday. Not everybody that started the practice ended the practice with us. So, we just challenge guys. We challenge guys at halftime. So we shot the ball well, but, again, we gave them too many open looks and made it closer than it had to be.
We won't see you again until the 2nd of January, and hopefully it'll be a slightly different looking squad. A couple guys back from injury, and the first time we'll potentially see Dan Powers. How much is that going to help this squad, having a little bit more depth, a little bit more legs late in games?
Well, if we can fast track his conditioning, he can help us. Dan's never been the most fleet of foot guy, but the one thing Dan does bring is physicality, and Dan's a competitive kid, and we know that we got at least one kid that'll push back, but Dan's got a lot of work to do still before we count Dan in the rotation. Just because he's back and he played last year, he's not guaranteed anything. I think that's not fair to the guys that have been playing all semester, who have kind of given it their all. So, it's like tryouts again. December 26th, we're going to do tryouts all over again, and we'll go from there.
Thanks so much. Merry Christmas. Dan Powers, good luck over the next couple weeks with conditioning. Right now, we'll take a look at the highlights from the second half and then close out here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. He had been poked in the eye there as he's slow to get into the offensive end. Charles Mitchell from the wing, and the Beacons have the lead right back at fourth side for Cody Cook. Back for Dagley. He's a very great three-point shooter, and he knocks it down.
Yeah, you don't see them playing a lot of 2-3 zone. They're usually more of a man-to-man team.
Michael Boyd with an out ahead of the pack. Mitchell tries to get there and he blocks him. 5'10", a huge rejection. They're going to say he was out of bounds, but that was perfectly timed, and that's one of the best plays.
Him to start producing.
Lee looks to drive over 3 players, floats it in. Ty Lee.
And welcome back for the final time. Sorry about those issues with the audio. UMass Boston ends the game shooting 50% from the field, 27 of 54, 12 of 20 from distance. The one area they'd like to work on is the free throw line, 12 of 21. Eastern Naz ends up at 41% from the field, 27 of 65, 12 of 29 from distance. So both teams finish with 12 made threes, but the Beacons end up shooting 9 fewer. And the Beacons very close in rebounds, which is a great sign against a bigger team. Eastern Nazarene came in +3 on the year, UMass Boston -8. Of these stats, the one that really sticks out is the three-point shooting, and it went the reverse way of the way we're expecting.
Absolutely. I'm not going to lie, I myself thought that Eastern Naz were going to outshoot the Beacons from the three-point line. And in turn, we have the Beacons shooting at 60%. Definitely something that if I'm Coach Harris, I'm definitely happy to see from them. The turnovers as well. The Lions with 20 turnovers, a lot of it coming from the last 5-10 minutes in the game, and that can be crucial in a close game like this.
Well, we're going to take a look at the Beacons team leaders right now, as some of the Beacons fans are still in the gym, still whooping it up a little bit right now, as you can hear at least one rowdy fan in the front row in the background. For UMass Boston, Mike Boyd led 4 Beacons in double figures, 19 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 5 of 7 from distance, 17 more from Charles Mitchell. Both players started the game on the bench, 13 from Barnes and Lee. So UMass Boston used 8 players in today's game, really only went 7 deep, but enough to get the win. On the other side, David Lopez, a career-high 22 points and 11 rebounds. He got the double-double. But Josh Rice, a guy who averages 17 points a game,
limited to 15 on 6 of 14 shooting, 3 of 8 from distance. So he got his points in the end, but he was pretty quiet for the most part. Does anything else stick out there on the stat sheet?
I emphasized Michael Boyd's name a lot, but a constant name that always keeps coming up in the conversation when it comes to the Beacons, Charles Mitchell, coming out with 17 points, shooting 4 from 8 from the three-point. If he works on his free throw game, he could have had at least 25 points this game.
Yeah, that's the scary part. He's leaving points on the table. Right now, we'll look ahead for UMass Boston. They're off for a while, but then they will get back to action. A couple of non-conference games before they head back into conference play. They'll host Regis College on the 2nd. Bridgewater State is on the road on the 4th. Second time the Beacons have had a shot at the Bears after the Beacons lost to Bridgewater State by 4 points in the Harbor Invite title game. And then they will host Eastern Connecticut State on the 6th of January. I'd like to take a moment right now to give a shout out to our production crew. My name is Seth Arensky, your play-by-play guy and producer. Gigi Braga making her color commentary debut on basketball. Anthony Searles was supposed to be our director. He was replaced by Giovanna Bonilla, who did a tremendous job. Rachel Maslak, our graphics operator. Alex Gibbs on replay. Marcelo Cunha, Cassidy Gaeta, Laura Roman Castro on camera with a little bit of help from Roxanne Vento, just a little. Folks, we hope that you have a great holidays. We hope you stay safe and stay warm. Thanks so much for watching. UMass Boston goes into the break at 6-5 after a 78-72 win over Eastern Nazarene.